everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Board Game Breakfast. Board Game Breakfast is a weekly show in which we talk all about board games. We have a plethora of contributors who are going to talk about all sorts of different things, and we have many things to go over today in talking about board games. We are now in the summer season when games are being announced right and left, or more importantly, being released right and left. And so you saw a few reviews of new games last week. More of that will continue this week. But the big thing you'll see some more today, is our Origins summer preview videos. We recorded, I think, 115 different videos at Origins, and we've been hard at work editing these and getting these posted. And several are going up every day, so you have a chance to see publishers show off their games, and whether they're good or bad, that's up for you to decide. We'll give you our opinions as the next weeks go by over many of these games. I'm going to be doing a live Q&A today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I hope to see some of you there. Check that out. And this is the week before Dice Tower Con, so we're all preparing for that convention. Hopefully, if you're not coming to it this year, you'll have a chance to come next year. Remember, the Dice Tower Cruise is this year and still has a little over 10 rooms remaining, so those are going pretty quickly, and you can find that out at dicetowercruise.com. But meanwhile, on to the news. So in the news, just a few things this week. Looney Labs has some new coins that they've made that are made to go with Firefly Flux. And they've also announced LooneyCon, which sounds more like a party-style event. That's happening July 22nd to the 24th. Speaking of conventions, Gen Con, which is only, I think, a month away at this point. It's getting closer and closer. There has been an article talking about the fact that they're using the Lucas Oil Stadium this year. And this is the first major convention. In fact, in the article they mentioned that Gen Con is the largest convention that takes place at the convention center over the course of the year, which I find phenomenal. It even beats out the NRA, which shows up. And this is the first time a convention has used the display areas in the convention, and there's a tunnel that's in between. And they mentioned that Gen Con's going to have quarter operated arcade machines in that lengthy tunnel. I guess it's a long enough tunnel to walk through. So that'll be interesting. We'll try to take a camera through it when we go there ourselves, but I'm looking forward to seeing just how big Gen Con has gotten. Stronghold has announced a tiny expansion for Diamonds called Diamonds the Thief. Ticket to Ride, another Ticket to Ride is coming, and they're finally getting away from the railroads, or at least adding to the railroads, and Ticket to Ride's Rails and Sails. This is a new standalone / expansion for Ticket to Ride, which has both trains and boats. You'll be connecting land routes and sea routes in this. What sounds like there's different decks of cards. One side shows the whole world. The other side shows the Great Lakes area of the United States. I've just come to the conclusion that Days of Wonder knows what they're doing when it comes to Ticket to Ride. Because every time we're like, I don't know. Then they had some missteps over the years. There's certainly been expansions, especially the Dice one, that weren't very well received at all. Even the Monsters, which I liked, kind of went over. But the latest ones have been very good. So I'm certainly eager to see this, which looks like it's going to be released in August. I bet we'll see some at Gen Con. BGG, speaking of Gen Con, has put up their Gen Con preview. You want to know every single game that may or may not be at Gen Con? There's hundreds of them, and Eric Martin collects them there. And finally, a congratulations to the folks who make the Game of 49. That and Clask are both now in Targets, which is a pretty neat thing. I had a chance to play in a Game of 49 live game show at Origins, and that was a lot of fun. Well, that's the regular news. Suzanne, what's the Kickstarter news?
Happy breakfast, everybody. Epic battles, dark rituals, and some thievery, and a table to play them on. Let's take a look at what's happening in our crowdfunding world today. Hope the board game is a semi-cooperative space exploration game. Players will team up as the human organization to preserve existence. Get it? Hope. To transform planets into new homes through terraforming before the universe's regression destroys everything. You'll move around the galaxy within a dimension, aka color, or polarize into a new dimension. And Hope uses an uncommon approach to hexagons, making this movement mechanism pretty compelling. You'll drop pioneers onto the hexes to stabilize the galaxy and try to reach the end of the mission track before the regression. And you can also do things like boost your characters with medals. But be warned, there could be a traitor among you. And even if there isn't, only one player will emerge as the most honored for victory. You can get a copy of Hope for $49. White Wizard Games is bringing us the fantasy version of Star Realms that some of us thought Epic was going to be in Hero Realms. This game is strongly rooted in Star Realms mechanically, but White Wizard has expanded the formula and added gameplay options. In Hero Realms, you can play as a specific fantasy archetype, all of which have a unique starting deck of supporting creatures and abilities, and there are enough cards in the base box to play up to 4 people. There are also 2 different boss decks, which create a 1 versus many scenario, and you can get a campaign starter deck that turns Hero Realms into a solo or cooperative campaign style game. The bare bones game starts at $20 plus shipping, but if you want all the gameplay, bells and whistles, that will take a pledge of $72 plus shipping. Without a doubt, gaming tables are a luxury, but Board Game Tables is trying to make a high-quality product more affordable with their Duchess gaming table. Made of rubber wood, so it's a solid wood product, not pressboard. The Duchess has a 3-foot by 5-foot playing area set 2 inches down from the surrounding railing. The table also comes with a full table neoprene playmat. You can add cup holders that attach to the side, and if you want to have a multi-use table, you can also get a topper that will convert the gaming table to a regular dining table. And the topper has been designed to prevent any spills from seeping through to the gaming surface. To keep prices lower, the Duchess is an assemble-yourself product, but it's been designed for easy home assembly. The base table does take a pledge of $499 plus shipping, but if you want the topper and full set of cup holders, that takes a pledge of $799. In Madness at Midnight from Mr. B Games, players use cultists to control Arkham, complete plots, and fight off investigators in a race to 13 points. Custom action dice will let you move, fight, or use locations, but rerolls cost you madness, and if you have too much madness, you can't reroll. After all, the cultists are harder to control the more madness they have. The different locations can change at night, which will also change their benefits, and cultists can be upgraded and gain abilities. Overall, there's actually a lot going on in this game designed by Mads L. Brenham and Richard Lanius, but the mechanisms are pretty streamlined and the game is highly thematic. You can get a copy of Madness at Midnight for $52 plus shipping, but at the time of this recording, there were still a reasonable number of $49 early bird slots still open. And last but not least, designer Tim Fowers is bringing us Fugitive, a quick-playing 2-player deduction game. One person plays the fugitive who's trying to escape, while the other plays the marshal trying to trap and capture the fugitive. The game uses a custom deck of cards numbered 0 through 42, and the fugitive escapes if they can play the 42 card. They do this by playing hideouts, which are face-down cards according to placement rules, but they can cheat a little bit by using other cards to skip further down the line. Meanwhile, the marshal gains more info by drawing cards and captures the fugitive if they can identify all of the hideouts. Tim is also the designer of Paperback and Burgle Brothers, and all of his design cleverness is apparent in Fugitive. You can get a copy for a pledge of $18 plus shipping. All right, that's all I've got for you this episode. Hopefully something caught your eye, and until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.
So usually the way my production schedule works is I'll plan things out a month or so ahead of time so I can shoot everything all at once, and then I can take the month off where I don't have to worry about filming and I can just worry about editing and so forth. And because of that, I'm getting to this one a little bit later than I would like to have, and that is I wanted to highlight a couple really interesting videos that have been posted on the internet about Dungeons & Dragons. Now, one of them was a TED Talk. Yes, an actual TED Talk was given on Dungeons & Dragons. Roll the tape, Johnny.
Deep inside all of us, inside our metaphorical dungeons, is a dragon. But we don't know if we can slay it.
I recommend you check it out. The speaker mainly talks about the psychological and social benefits of having a healthy fantasy life with your friends.
And I know that I don't have to go it alone. I've found my team.
It's great, but he also gives some bad advice, too.
Rushing into combat isn't always the answer.
Next up, the New York Times did a piece on Dungeons & Dragons. They look at it more from like a social and historical standpoint, going back to 1974 and talking about how the game may have changed and talking with some famous people who played it. They also, of course, go out of their way to talk about the steam tunnels in the 80s and the kids who supposedly killed themselves and all that kind of stuff that's been debunked. But was probably a bigger deal to people who didn't have the internet at the time.
Over time, the Dungeons & Dragons controversy lost steam. And today, the common thread between D&D players is less likely to include any reported links to violence, and more likely to involve Emmy Awards and literary prizes.
I know we usually don't talk about RPGs, and I know that in terms of the world of board games, there's more than enough to talk about already. But I think RPGs are something that we've all played. Certainly Dungeons & Dragons is something we're all familiar with. There are many board games set in the realms of Dungeons & Dragons, so I thought this would be cool to check out. Hopefully you can see those videos, that you enjoy them as much as I do, and hopefully I made my charisma check with you today. Ah,
Hey, this is Mike with the Board Game Makeover. Last week, I was down in Columbus, Ohio, attending the Origins Game Fair. I was there for two reasons. Not to play games and buy games, but I did both, but to help out the Dice Tower crew, but more importantly, to meet you. I wanted to thank you for stopping by the booth, and if we had a chance to talk, thank you for all the kind words, the great ideas, because that's what inspires me to continue doing what I do. In 2 weeks, I will be down in Orlando, Florida, attending the Dice Tower Convention. So if I haven't met you, or even if I have, stop by and say hi. In this episode, I am showing you a game I brought back from Origins called Onitama. This game is awesome. It's a great abstract game, and it's so easy to retheme. Let me show you what I did. At Origins, there's a toy store near the convention center called Big Fun Columbus. And in that store, I found finger puppets, zombie finger puppets. Later, when I bought Onitama, I found these pieces, which are very generic, the little samurai pieces, fit into the finger puppet. And that just opened up a Pandora box of ideas for this game. On Amazon, I found these monster finger puppets, and they are awesome for this as well. Of course, I had to create a board that was different than the original board that comes in Onitama, so I created Zombie-tama. And I put some graphics together, and in a future episode, I'm going to show you how I did this. Now, if you want to go creepy, I found these hands, and they are little finger puppet hands that fit perfectly on the pieces. And if they do a good job, they can give each other a high five. I present to you My Little Pony Tama. I found these My Little Pony figures at a thrift store, and I cut the heads off them to use them in this game. The ideas for retheming this game are endless. Zombie-tama and My Little Pony Tama are the two themes I used to give Onitama a retheme. Onitama, one of my new favorite games because it's fun to play, it's an abstract game, my whole family likes it now, and it's a great game to give a theme makeover. Thanks for watching the Board Game Makeover, and we'll see you next time.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
And today we have a question from Joe. Now Joe asked this. He says he bought a whole pile of Arkham Horror. And then Elder Chart came out. And he was like, I don't want to play Arkham Horror anymore, I just want to play Elder Chart. But he bought Arkham Horror and all its expansions, so he felt kind of cheated. Same thing happened with Mage Wars Arena. Then Mage Wars Academy came out, which was more streamlined, and why did he buy all this Mage Wars Arena? And now he says he's glad he didn't get an X-Wing even because he was replaced by Armada. What do you think?
See, I kind of disagree with that because I don't mind having what I'd consider the first edition of a game versus a second edition of the game. Sometimes I think the first edition with the more meat is better than the streamlined one, and a lot of times the newer versions are streamlined and take out things that were just fine being in. I know you like streamlining, but I think that there's nothing wrong with first editions that are heavier than streamlined second editions, and I like my first edition. Like X-Wing, for example, I have every X-Wing ship, and I have every Armada ship, but I'm not going to be upset that I buy X-Wing because of Armada or, anything of that same similar thing. I have Mage Wars and I have Mage Wars Academy and then you can mix and match cards from each set, and there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
I don't think it's as big of a deal either, because I understand you buy Arkham Horror, you buy the expansion, Elder Chart comes out, and you go, oh, I like Elder Chart better. Or you don't. But Elder Chart existing doesn't make Arkham Horror a bad game. Now for me, I said, oh, Elder Chart replaced Arkham Horror. But that doesn't mean I go back in time and all that fun I had playing Arkham Horror, suddenly goes away. It doesn't mean a guy comes to my house like, give me Arkham Horror, and he runs off with it. You must have Elder Chart. No, I don't ever have to buy the new game.
Yeah.
So the new versions, like we'll say Eldritch is a newer version of Arkham. Okay, there's differences, but let's say it's a newer version. It doesn't make the old one bad. Even like a game where it is, Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition. You're like, I like Twilight Imperium 2nd Edition. Then keep playing it. If they haven't destroyed your old game, they haven't taken your fun away. You might say, well, they stopped making expansions for it, but isn't the game fun as it is? I mean, like for Arkham Horror, for example, there's like 10 expansions for it. That's pretty good.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, old games are great. Arkham Horror is great. Eldritch Horror is good too, but Eldritch Horror was just a streamlined version, and I like Arkham Horror better.
Well, they are different and stuff, and you're wrong on that.
But also, like, forget what you guys think. I want to play TI1. No more TI3. It's TI1 for life.
Okay, first of all, you don't even believe that. You can't even say it with a straight face. And then finally, you mentioned X-Wing and Armada. They're completely different games. X-Wing is,
Armada is a more advanced version of X-Wing.
No, Armada is like a telescoping out, and it's fleet versus fleet. It has a very different feel to it.
No, it doesn't. It's an advanced version. Advanced version with the movement thing having curves instead of just one straight curve. You could bend and curve, but it's basically an advanced version.
They move slowly. They're firing broadsides. X-Wing is fast and shooting around. You really think they're that similar?
Yeah, it's a more advanced version. It's got you have things on the sides where you're getting hit, but I have them both, so I think that they're both great.
Now, for me, I like Armada better, and I kept Armada because I like the capital ships fighting each other, but I think they're different enough games. And again, owning Armada doesn't suddenly mean, oh, X-Wing's terrible. It's not.
X-Wing's awesome.
In that case, they're supporting both games. So it's not something I would worry about. Now, I could see when you buy a game and the next day they announce 2nd edition. And you're like, but how can you know these things? You can't get mad at the company about that.
Exactly.
I mean, they have to update and make things better. I wouldn't worry so much about it.
That's a whole different topic that we should talk about sometime, about when you buy a 1st edition and they change components and stuff a month later, and you have to figure out, can you get those components for your 1st edition? That'll be a topic for another time.
Yes, I'm sure that would be fun. All right, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 101. Well, Shadows of Brimstone beat Doom. Yes, the predecessor to Descent, or the same thing that the mechanics came from, got beat by Shadows of Brimstone, which gives us finally our final, which will be Descent versus Shadows of Brimstone. Can Shadows of Brimstone beat both games? I don't know. Can Descent declare itself the greatest miniatures dungeon crawl of all time? Well, that's up to you guys, and you guys get to vote. So leave your votes in the comments below, or hit me at novaprime860@hotmail.com. Now, every comment that is made will be put into a hat, and a $25 gift certificate, cool stuff, will be drawn for the winner, which will be announced none other than next week. So, right about the Dice Tower Con time, guess what? Right before it starts, we'll have our grand champion. So, I want to thank everybody that's voted along the way. I'll be updating everything on Board Game Geek in the forum section of Dice Tower, and let's see who wins out of these two huge heavyweights, Descent or Shadows of Brimstone. Folks, it's up to you. Well, until next time, I'm Rob Orne, and we'll see you soon.
There is going to be a lot of videos that show up in the Dice Tower this week. Not just the previews, Origin Summer previews, but we have a lot of reviews. Jason and I recorded several reviews a few weeks ago that, because of sound, got all messed up. Well, those have been re-recorded, so you'll see those this week. We're going to get back into the 40 years of great games. Z is going to finish his top 100 this week. Board Game Blender. Folks, if you've never watched Board Game Blender, give it a try. It's very similar to Board Game Breakfast, but Z is the host, and it has a theme to it. So that will be posted this week. I think we have a back talk scheduled for this week. There are a lot of reviews coming your way. I have so many cool games I'm going to be taking a look at. So anyhow, you can find all that at Dicetower.com, as well as our audio podcast and many other great audio podcasts. Check it out.
Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here. In my previously scheduled segment about the best board game to play while waiting for a face painting company to provide you with a quote for the Independence Day tempura tableau that you wish to emblazon across your face, neck, chest, and arms, we each celebrate the holiday in our own way, we'll have to wait because I have received a question. It's Survive Space Attack, by the way. While assisting at the Dice Towers booth at Origins last week, a gentleman named Jason Bowles approached me with a query, seeking guidance on a question that had plagued him and Concordia is a better choice for the Independence Day face painting thing, but I don't have a copy of it with me, so no, let's stick with Survive Space Attack. Survive Space Attack. This puzzle had plagued Jason and his entire game group for weeks, and so he traveled all the way to Columbus, Ohio, to Origins, to the Dice Tower booth, to ask what I told him was an expert opinion, and have this matter settled once and for all. And Jason's question was, is pinball a board game? Proponents of pinball as a board game argued that it is a game that is technically played on a board. But that's absurd. I mean, you're trying to manipulate an object off obstacles and into holes to score points. But doesn't that also describe crokinole? Okay, but it's merely a dexterity game focusing on manipulating the components. Like Click, Clack, Lumberjack, Pitch Car, or even Riff Raff? But there's dedicated places to play these things. Arcades. Board gaming cafes? Shut up! They combine technology and or software with a tabletop experience. Which could be said for Mousetrap, Operation, XCOM, and Alchemists. And so, with both sides of the argument making excellent points, I did what any brave podcaster would do, and I bought myself some more time by telling Jason that I would address this topic a few days from now in a Head in the Clouds segment. And now that I am, I realize that the best response that I can give is to buy myself some more time. Now, I do have an answer for you, Jason, but first, Concordia. Concordia is definitely the better choice. I'll stand by that. I want to know what the viewers think, and how the public's interpretation compares to my own. So, tell me, is pinball a board game? And why or why not? And how do you define what constitutes a board game? Let me know, and next time we'll compare notes over a nice game of Concordia Survive Space Attack.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another segment of Board Gaming with Colleagues with To Die For Games. I'm Mandy, the board gaming pinup girl.
I'm Tracy, the gaming maven.
And I'm Steph, the games teacher. You guys hungry?
Yeah, a little bit.
Lunchtime! Lanterns, the Harvest Festival, is designed by Christopher Chung, published by Foxtrot Games, plays 2 to 4 players in about 30 minutes.
The objective of this game is to make dedications to gain honor points. You do this by taking your lantern cards, submitting them to make 3 pairs, 4 of a kind, or 1 of each color.
You play the game out until all the tiles have been played on the board. You'll have 3 tiles in hand, and on your turn, you'll first exchange favor tokens to exchange 1 card for another color. You will then make a dedication, exchanging cards in for the award. And the third thing you'll do is place a tile. When you play a tile, whatever color is facing each player, they will collect that card color. In addition, the player who plays the card can earn bonuses for matching another side to a similar color. Another thing you can do with the cards is there are platforms on some of the tiles, which will earn you these favor tokens. You'll get 1 for the one you play, plus any ones that are adjacent.
I really like the artwork in this game. It's simple but effective. It really has a zen quality to it. Makes me feel like I'm standing on a lakeshore watching the paper lanterns float off on the lake surface.
I really enjoyed this game. It's simple tile laying game, so you think, oh, there's not much to think about. No, there really is, because depending on how you place your tile will depend on how many or what color lantern cards you're giving to other players.
So it can be a little bit of competitiveness, but I find it's pretty zen, pretty nice.
Yeah, overall pretty good.
Really like this game. It's a good light game for lunchtimes.
Yeah, we agreed. So on that note, we are gonna get another game in before work time again. So we'll see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.
For many years, game designers did not get credit on games. This was not a good thing, but it just happened. In fact, it still happens in the mass market. Go to the store, pick up a game, turn it over, and you likely don't know who designed that game. That's unfortunate. Designers should get credit for what they are. In fact, some people think that they should be called game inventors. Now, Board Game Geek, which is a database, keeps track of designers, and that's a good thing. A secondary thing that is kept track of in games is artists, and artists are starting to get more and more credit for games as time goes by. And this is an important thing because there are definitely some artists who are better than others. And some artists like Piero, Michael Menzel, and different artists, their names are becoming more and more widely known in gaming circles. And art is a cool thing because you can walk down an aisle and see people like at an art show and think, ooh, I wonder what that would look like in a game. And it might even be in a game. Art can make or break games. But I'm putting out the call here that we should be adding a third category to many games. With the proliferation of miniatures in games now, or plastic molded pieces, someone actually has to design those plastic molds, which is as much of an art form as painting. I mean, Michelangelo is known just as much for his statue of David as he is for the paintings that he's done. So it should be, in my opinion, just as important for a game to credit the sculptor, especially games where the miniature pieces are the focus of the game. Like, for example, Blood Rage and many of the Cool Mini or Not games, and well, really, many games these days come out with wonderful miniatures. And we should know who is the person sculpting these miniatures. So I'm saying here, publicly for companies, we need to start giving these guys credit, and that credit needs to be right there after the artist and designer. We can argue over whether who's more important in a game, designer or artist, I don't know. But I think it's pretty clear that the sculptor is at least on the same level as the artist. This is something new. Miniatures have not been in games, and they haven't been that great, really, until just in the last decade or so. But it is a big deal now. Many games make an extra $1 million on Kickstarter because of the sculptors. So let's start giving these people credit. Let's start putting them up there and saying, so-and-so has sculpted the pieces for this game so that they can get the credit they deserve. I think this is the next logical step. Yes, it's another level of things to remember maybe about a game, but I think it's something that is past due, or at least it's now coming into consciousness, so we should tell these, say, hooray, good job to these folks. There are games that have amazing sculpts. There are games that have so-so sculpts, and I want to be able to say, oh, well, of course that game has amazing sculpts because so-and-so put them together. Nowadays, sculpts have files and 3D printers allowing people to print out sculpts, and that's kind of a topic for another day. And this is really not a very long Tom Thinks, but it's one I like people to take up the rallying cry on, because the battle for designer names on covers has been won for the most part, except in the mass market. We can't do much about that now. But in the designer world, their name's on the cover. Artists, I would say they're on cover a lot of the time. Not maybe as much as they deserve, but they're often there. Well, let's get the sculptor's name on the box too, because that is a big deal. That's what I think.
Let June the 23rd go down in our history as our Independence Day.
Hi guys, welcome to Playing the News. Last week, a group of professional and hobby divers finished a 9-day expedition in which they managed to recover 2,000 kilos of old fishing nets from the bottom of the North Sea. Ghost fishing is what happens when fishing gear gets dumped, lost or abandoned, and too many animals get trapped this way and starve a slow death. The Dutch initiative Dive the North Sea Clean tries to reduce the amount of ghost fishing. During their quest below sea level, they clean up, they collect data on marine life and rescue trapped animals, as well as combining it all with their hobby, diving. Most notable during this year's expedition was the sighting of an elegant sea slug with its Dutch name Goudstipje. This week I am playing a game that takes you on an aquatic adventure, where a steady hand and an eye for detail will help you win. This week I am playing Doodle Quest. In Doodle Quest, players flip over a quest card, study it and then start drawing on their own transparent sheet. When everyone is done drawing, you put the transparent sheet on top of the quest card and you add up the points. The game has got several different quest cards, they're all very cheerful, and it is a great gateway game. The same designers who made Doodle Quest also made another game called Looney Quest, and the expansion to Looney Quest has got a underwater theme as well. Both are very fun and both are worth checking out. I suggest Doodle Quest for a beginner group and Looney Quest with its computer game-like feel for a more experienced group. Let me know in the comments which aquatic theme game I should have chosen this week. And if you want to know more about preserving marine life, check out Duik de Noordzee Schoon or ghostfishing.org. Thanks for watching.
Episode of Cyril's Brettspiele. My name is Niels, best and worst, and today we are talking about Captain Carker's Dead Man's Draw. Yeah, watch it. My favorite part on Captain Carker's Dead Man's Draw is the push your luck effect, but also the trigger of the cards. So when you flip over these cards and bring that into this middle row here, for an example, key do nothing, then net. Now you have to bring one of your cards into the middle. In this case, I prepared it like, oh, there's a harpoon, that's a good idea. So with a harpoon, the special effect is I steal a card from here. So now I can take the key, then I have two of the same symbols in the middle and that is a bust. I can take the knife and kill one of the cards, or I can take the treasure map here and take a look at the top 3 cards of this one here and pick another card. There are 10 different to add to the row. Now I found a treasure chest, and now I have a key and a chest, and I get, when I claim this as my reward, 5 additional cards. So as you can see, all these cards trigger together, but it is a pure press your luck mechanism. The only downside for me, and you hear I was looking for something I don't like on that for such a long time, it's the playtime. It's between 10 and 15 minutes. It's over before it really starts. That's a really bit of a shame. However, you can restart the game and restart the game and restart the game. So you hear my complaint is such a tiny complaint. So this is a great game, obviously, for me. That was my personal favorite of Captain Carcass and what I don't like on it. See you next time. Bye bye, yours Niels.
Hello Chappets, here's a brand new game which is so fresh from France that it's got wet paint on it still. This is not Final Touch, but this is. In Final Touch, players are painters all working in a workshop creating forgeries. So you're working together, but at the same time, you're not working together. Everyone will be dealt 5 cards. These are the colours that are used to create the paintings. One painting will be placed into the middle of the table. On this painting there are the colours that are required to complete it, plus 2 score values, a high one and a low one. On a player's turn they can play as many cards from their hand as they wish to contribute towards finishing the painting. You place these on the left. At the end of your turn you replenish your hand size to 5 and play passes to the next player. If you were lucky enough to play the last card needed, the final touch, you win that card, you flip it over and you gain the high points at the end of the game. But if you cannot contribute or you do not wish to contribute to the painting, you can try and bodge this painting up by playing one card to the right. This is a colour which is not used in the painting or has already got its quota filled. If you are the player that places the 3rd botched card to the right of the painting, you give all the other players the lower scoring. The first player to reach 25 points is considered the winner and ends the game. So there you go, a quick playing hand management screw your neighbour game, and it is a masterpiece. But when will it be washing up on your shores? Je ne sais pas.
Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at a new insert for, this is the deluxe version of Carson City, which, you know, is one, I don't normally want inserts, right? Companies ask me to review them, I like them. They're nice to have, but I don't really seek them. I actually sought this one because Carson City Deluxe version just had stuff all around. Now inside here, I included the assembly instructions for this one. This is from Meeple Realty, and so it took some glue, and it actually took some time to put this together. But what Meeple Realty added to the kind of the genre here was they added some bendable wood, if that makes sense. So we look here on the top here, and inside the case, you'll see these little bullets that they almost look like. I love how these are themed, okay? So this here, see, the way the wood is, the wood can actually bend, and so you can have kind of curved boxes. And then this here has a lid on it, which when you open up, look, there's all the pieces of one color. And because of, and these are just, guys, I'm gushing a little bit here because I really enjoy these. Each player can get one of these. There's one for each player's color, so they all fit in here. You'll also notice that I have everything for this, so not everything is even needed. There's room for expansion here. You can see all the tiles here in the back, and all these different things come out. Here's the bank piece, which has all the different money in it. I just love this. It keeps my game organized, but I can also basically place it out on the table, and we can use it. Here we got the horse tokens, and here we got the black outlaw tokens. There's a spot here there's even a spot to put the book here where you keep, if you're going to pick variable setups, all the different pieces are down here. There's spots for the mountains. There's spots for the characters. There's actually more spots than things that are needed in the game. So maybe there's Kickstarter stuff I don't even have, possibly. But all of it fits in here very neatly, and each of these trays comes out of the box, and so the whole game can be set up in a very quick, orderly fashion. This is one of my favorite inserts for a game ever. I really like it. A lot of it is, I will admit, due to the theme. These boxes alone are great. You just give this to somebody, and they have a nice little box that has all their pieces inside it. I love that. And the fact that it looks kind of thematic. The wood here fits the game. There's another little box. This one here is for the yellow pieces. And so I just really enjoy how they all fit in like that. So that is the insert from Meeple Realty for Carson City Deluxe.
Hi, my name's Dave Adams. Welcome to Good Game, Better Gamers. Over the last couple of weeks, we've looked at a scenario in which my aunt and uncle came to tensions over a game of Get Bit. Now, during the tensions, my auntie accused my uncle of being mean for choosing the same numbers as her, even though it was clear to all of us that he couldn't really have known which numbers she was going to choose. But that's not to say that these situations are intended to be rational. Often what occurs when we get heightened emotions is we jump to conclusions about what's happening. These are called perspective judgments. Our judgments don't tend to be based on the actual events or the reality of the situation, but in high emotional times, we tend to ignore what the reality of the situation is and lead to conclusions which are often false. Instead of stopping and rationalizing the situation and trying to see it as just another unfortunate confluence of events, instead her emotions led her to make judgments that were not really fair. One of the things that we can do to manage perspective judgments is when we feel that heightened emotion and when we feel like we're jumping to conclusions during a situation, is to try and have some questions that we can ask that allow us to step back and to consider what's really going on. We can ask such questions as, what's really happening? What are the details of the situation? Who's in control? Or what can be done to bring a resolution? Now, I tend to use academic language like that with these questions because it helps me to realize that it's not meant to be an emotional situation, but a thoughtful one. And it engages my brain when I need to control my heart. It gives me a chance to gain some perspective on the situation and to see, well, am I really in control? Am I blaming the person for things that they aren't actually in control of? And it starts to pull me out of my emotional state and to start to calm down and to realize the situation as it is. Next week, we're going to talk about fairness. I've been Dave Adams. Enjoy your breakfast.
Hello, and welcome to part one of my maybe multi-parted part about why my gaming group failed so miserably. Yes, I started a gaming group, and we met once, and then we never met again. Okay, so I started gaming, and I thought, what better thing to do than meet like-minded meeple-vigils, patent pending, and play games with them, right? Wrong, you crazy bunch of dingus-drungles! It was too big too soon. That was go big or go home, and then going home. That was learning how to swim, then taking to the high dive, then jumping off into the bleachers, missing the pool, embarrassing yourself in front of Sally, the girl you like. Actually, it wasn't really anything like that, but it was bad, and here's the reason. I went from, in a small amount of time, not knowing anything about games to trying to teach them. And I assumed that everyone that responded to my meetup would already be gamers. And they weren't. And actually, in my case, out of the 15 people who turned up to my game night, only 2 of them had played modern board games before, and the rest were just curious. And I kind of ruined it for them. My underpreparedness kind of made most of those people's first interaction with modern board games rubbish. But that certainly isn't the only reason my gaming group ended so miserably. So, more next week. And until then, I'm Matthew Jude, this is Dead Last, and I'll see you next week. Unless, I don't know, I don't because of vampires or aliens or black holes or swine flu or a giant ant rebellion or zombie Hitler, Zitler, or...
Well, that's another board game breakfast. Maybe a little bit shorter than others, but that's because we have so much other content coming this week. I really hope you guys stick around. I hope you enjoy the content. I hope you tell us when there's things you like and don't like. We did a fun live show at Origins that went up last week, so maybe you have a chance to go and watch that. And don't forget, each week on Mondays, we also put up a week in review, which is a kind of a short snippets of all the reviews we did last week, so you can see which ones we've done and see what our thoughts are on those games. So you can check that video out. Many other videos coming. See you today at 2 for Q&A. Until next week, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.